morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. I had to turn up my hearing aids. The fellow had the volume up, so I didn't know we were on the air, Judith K. We do have a couple of real perspectives here today, and certainly some personalities to go with the perspectives. As always, we start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. And our guest, Judith K., probably the simplest kudo to do today would be to thank those here in the Golden County who have made it a point to help out on the Texas disaster. Yes. Churches and individuals and so forth have got together and done things on their own. And I know of a couple instances where somebody's taken their truck down there, taking some supplies. So, mankind helping mankind, so it's a nice thing.
Sometimes you get kind of jaded, I guess, and then something like this happens, and people are coming from a lot farther north than Texas with their boats to help with that'll help.
Well, this is new to her.
Yeah.
She forgot. For those who are viewing the program and missed it, Mrs. Busby forgot the microphone was out in front of her. But she'll get.
It's the only equipment in here that's like mine. You'd think I could remember.
In Mayberry, they do it different than that. They make sure in Mayberry that you have the microphone right in front of you.
Do they? I thought this was Mayberry. Another mistake.
This is Mayberry. Hey, let's get together. We have a serious subject matter about which we want to discuss this morning. And if you'll notice that I missed a dangling preposition there.
Well, no, because I was looking at your kudos and hoping you got them in.
Yeah. Why don't we introduce our guest?
I'd like to do that.
As they say in show business.
There have only been 22 presidents since 1865. I think that's amazing. Your presidents stick to it. And here we have with us 21 and 22 from Lincoln College, which began as Lincoln University and has high hopes of going back to that. John Blackburn is number 21. Nice to see you, John. And David Gerlach is number 22.
Good morning.
And he lives in Jim and Bill's and my neighborhood.
Well, we had to let down the barriers at some point in time.
Yeah.
It was inevitable.
As a little concerned, Bill, two of the neighbors have moved out since I've moved in, so I'm a little worried that maybe I'm driving people away.
Was there a message there?
Yeah.
I think Bill's building a wall and you're paying for it.
I think you came in there to our coattails and you're paying for it. The way it is.
It's so nice to have you with us, and you've gotten together and made a big plan for a lot of improvement, expansion, advancement, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
All of the above. It might come as a surprise to the listeners out there, the both of you, that it takes a lot of money to run a school, big time money. And every once in a while you have to go to the well and dig a little deeper.
Sure.
And so that's what we're going to talk about today for the most part. We're going to talk about college and its impact and its plans and the need for some serious financial help. And so let us take the John Blackburn is co-chair along with a good friend of mine, a fellow trustee. Well, I'm not trustee anymore. They moved me on the back bench. It's called emeritus now. Jack Sparacio and John Blackburn are co-chairing this campaign. And I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but they've done a significant job of stepping to the plate as leadership goes. So let's just talk about your job, John. You and Jack and our president working hard to make this go. So far, we've raised a significant amount of money. Just kind of take the history right now, if you will, please, sir.
Well, as you know, Bill, we had our 150th celebration in 2015, and at that time we decided that it would probably be a good idea to tie a capital campaign to that 150th anniversary of the college, and I think it's worked out well. So for about 3 years, we've been in what we call the quiet phase. And the quiet phase of campaigns, for those that have been involved, you know what that is. But if you haven't been involved in one from sort of the backstage part, in the quiet phase, you contact your maybe closest friends and previous donors and people who have shown interest in the college prior to the campaign, and ask them if they'll participate. We did that. Dr. Gerlach and Vice President Ackerman have done an unbelievable job of raising money during that quiet period. And we'll maybe talk about those goals and accomplishments at some point in the program, but I think your listeners will be very, very pleased and maybe a little bit amazed by what they've done. But now we're ready. We've raised about 60% of the goal.
That's remarkable.
And the goal was $8 million. And again, that was mostly done by the advancement team and President Gerlach. So we're going public now with our campaign, and we're going to try to raise the other 40% that we think we need for several major projects and our annual fund. And you know, we would love to spend some time explaining why that annual fund is so important. President Gerlach probably does it better than I do, but that's a critical thing for us to accomplish. And then there are several buildings on campus that have been there a long time, have served us well, and are at a stage where they need some love, and we need to use them in the future. So, as part of that, thinking about our 150 years of history and what we were going to do going forward, we realized we needed to raise some funds to help us make sure those buildings were usable going forward. And we've established certain amounts that we would like to raise. I'll give you an example, Bill. We want to use the classrooms that haven't been used for several years in University Hall on the second and third floor.
Now that's your three-story structure. That's the oldest structure on campus. Or those who trying to locate University Hall.
Right. It was the cornerstone was laid in, I believe, in 1865, and so it's an old building. It's been refurbished probably more than once, but a few years ago we got concerned about code and maybe danger of using those upper classrooms on the second and third floors, and so it's going to take several $1 million to get that building back to where it needs to be. And again, in order to reach the goals that and the vision that Dr. Gerlach set for us, we need those classrooms. So that's a major project that we've been raising money for, and we're so fortunate that one of our I guess still trustee emeritus and ex-trustees, Pat Carroll, has kind of gotten us off the ground with a $1 million pledge to that campaign for the University Hall, and to in honor of Dr. Jack Nutt, and naming the presidential suite for Dr. Nutt. So that's the kind of exciting things that's been going on during that quiet phase. Don't want to imply that everybody needs to, we need all $1 million gifts. We need all levels, and every dollar counts. But being a cultural center of Logan County, in my opinion, we have some buildings that we need to keep up. As an example, the Johnson Center's been there since 1971. We need new seats. They've been worn, and then maybe a new stage. And so we've got a goal there, and we've got a goal in the natatorium, which I didn't know what a natatorium was, Billy, till I joined the college board. I thought,
same with me, John.
We called it a swimming pool in the little town I grew up in.
Well, you came from Northern Bayberry.
Yes, I did. So I'm talking too much, but
we're off to. I think it's important that our listeners get grounded in the background, and you're kind of delineating the need for what we're doing here.
Right, and so your original question, I think, is what's my role and Jack's role is really just to provide some leadership to a steering committee. And that steering committee is made up of several trustees and other people who are interested in the college from all over the state of Illinois and the country. And each area of Illinois has a chairman. of a subcommittee that are planning events to support the campaign. And if you know, at some point maybe we could talk about a couple of those that have happened. But it's working well. You know, locally, our group is led by Susan Hoblet. I think a lot of people know the Hoblet name, and Susan,
Atlanta way.
Great leader, vice chair of the board, and has taken on leading the campaign event and for this particular area. But we have two in the Chicago area. We've already had one event there, and then we have a subcommittee in the Peoria area and another one in the Bloomington Normal area, which are planning events for the future.
Well, Dr. Gerlach, let's examine for a minute the need for money. You have some great visions for Lincoln College. Historically, started out as a 4-year institution and very, very quickly became a 2-year institution. I'm not sure where we were in the history on that, but has been a 2-year institution for a number of years. And you have some great plans for developing the educational format and what we offer for students. So let's take it for just a minute for there, sir.
Sure. Thanks, Bill, and Judy, appreciate you inviting us out. Let me add a little bit to John's points on history. When I arrived, this campaign was fully developed and very thrilled over its goals. John, as the 21st president, had launched a bold vision for fundraising for the college that is a part of its natural history. And so let me go back in a little bit of time, Bill, and just say, in 1865, this community raised $50,000 to build University Hall.
In 1865, $50,000.
In 1901, they raised another $50,000 to build the next administration building. In 1920, the college and this community raised $200,000 to support Lincoln College. And in the paper, it shows the donors of $5 and $1,000 and $5,000 of individuals who saw the merit and need and the economic impact of Lincoln College and what it does for the community. And so for years, individuals have supported Lincoln College generously through small gifts, large gifts, amazing private ways, some very public ways. And so I was very proud to step on board and following such a long history of fundraising here. And John is modest in attributing to me and the advancement team on all of the fundraising. John raised a lot of the money, him and the staff prior to my arrival, and I'm very proud of that. So where we're headed, we were founded as a university in 1865. We served that until 1929. We dropped back to being a 2-year school in 1930, and that mission was done in a phenomenal way for the next number of years. And so we have added over the past 2 years 8 baccalaureate degrees, bachelor degrees for students to choose to stay 4 years. And this is what the campus I came from did. This is what my dissertation for my PhD was about. And it is natural for students to choose to stay if the options are there. Many of our alumni have said, boy, if only Lincoln College was a 4-year school, I would have stayed. I would have stayed and got my 4-year degree. And so we are proud to say that last year our enrollment was up 15%. And I haven't quite done the calculation, although I have the official number. We are one off the highest enrollment in the college's history and up about 3 or 4% over last year. And so 50 or 60 more students at Lincoln College this year than last year, and 15% up last year over the year before. And that is in a time here in Illinois which, if I can just whisper and say, it's a difficult state to operate in. I thought New York was bad. This is incredible.
It is. We're
Well,
number one, you know.
I think so. Number one.
In defying logic. By any definition, we're number one if it comes to be the negative side. So you've been swinging, the college and you and your wonderful staff have been swimming upstream against a very difficult current. That's just been the history. I'm going to digress just about 30 seconds here, Doctor, and say that one of the reasons that you came into such a decent position is the 21st president, whom I'm proud to say I had a hand in urging that he consider taking an interim position. And John Blackburn did step in. He was a board member, and he did agree to step in as an interim capacity while we were searching for a new president, and just did a whale of a job for us.
Fantastic job.
You came in with some doggone good groundwork that had been plowed and harrowed.
Absolutely, and it took me about a year to gently chide, cajole, twist arm. I think there might have been some bribery done to get John back on the Board of Trustees.
Which I thought was a great move.
His leadership has been phenomenal. I know you're sitting right next to me, John, but I'm still going to talk about you like
You're
this
reading
anyway.
from what he wrote.
Oh, that's right.
I'll give you the $100 later.
All right, I appreciate that.
So, we now are not only in an economic need, always have been. All schools are in that need, but you have been slowly and certainly and surely turning things around on the academic platform for Lincoln College. We no longer are just a 2-year institution doing a doggone job of sending kids on to another 4-year school, but now we are becoming, in fact, have become a 4-year school in many disciplines.
We will submit our application to the NAIA for 4-year athletics in October, and that will further transition us. About a third of our students are athletes, and they want to stay and play, and they made that clear to me and my staff. And so we're excited about that transition and the future of what that will bring for our students. And so it's a wonderful opportunity, and we have had a heck of an impact. I ran some numbers about a year ago. I did an op-ed for the local paper using the Federation of Independent Colleges economic impact website. Lincoln College has a $43 million economic impact in Illinois, $41 million in Logan County. $41 million economic impact. So to put that in perspective, Lincoln College has the same number of employees and the same number of economic impact as the Lincoln Development Center when that closed. And I think your listeners recognize how difficult that was for the community.
Oh, yes.
And so, Bill, this fundraising campaign is just a continuation of moving the college forward in a growing economic impact environment on our local economy.
And speaking of impact environment, we have what's saying this, being the capitalistic system in this country.
I see.
We have what is known as sponsors, and they make an economic impact. So we'll yield to them right now. Mr. Ash, go right ahead, sir. And we're right back live in the station here at WLCN. The program is Viewpoint, of course, appearing each Wednesday morning at 8:15 to 0900 hours. Our guest this morning, representing Lincoln College and its very, very important mission, a couple of presidents. John Blackburn was president of Lincoln College. He was also president of, if I think that was the term, of Country Financial, if that was a correct term, John. And, of course, we have our 22nd college president, Dr. David Gerlach, who is doing a whale of a job for us. And we're just talking about the economic impact, and it was made off air that $41 million in the community, that's every year that takes place. It's a huge thing. So we're in the process of doing some substantial economic development here on our college campus. We're in the presence of a great campaign, capital campaign, and Judith K., you were starting to ask a question,
yes.
So I'm taking too much time.
Not so much.
Shut up, Bill.
I would just be interested in knowing, as you move toward a university status, the four-year program will begin in what fields?
So when I arrived, we have a jazz studies and a theater major, four-year degree. The first year we added business management, sport management, criminal justice, radio, TV, new media. Last year we added conservation biology, vocal performance, exercise science, and human and community and human services. And so those are the 10 that we have on the Lincoln campus. We will add 3 more this year, giving us a total of 13 on the campus in just 3 years, which is phenomenal.
Very phenomenal. My golly, I wish you'd run the state.
Close your mouth now. You're sitting there open-mouthed, that, so you can close your mouth now.
I have no pride. I still care how I look.
Well, it is staggering. Those are very staggering numbers to think that we have come that far in such a short time. And, of course, that's just a building block. We have more on the plans.
On the drawing board?
On the drawing board, that's exactly right. Let's talk just a very quick minute about our communications department there. We've developed that, radio, now television, and the arts of producing television programs. You want to address that just a minute, Dr. Gerlach?
Well, John, I think, actually started this process. We have the renovated old ceramics building is now our television station, and they are doing some amazing productions. In fact, I talked to Angie Stolzenberg. She's a big star. I don't know if you know this, but she produced some healthy lifestyle TV show over at our station, and our students are gaining great experience. I was out at the Balloon Fest, and our students were interviewing Senator Bill Brady and doing a phenomenal job at that. And so production needs are happening at our television station. And so, Bill, radio and television are certainly staples in our society, but it's the new media side, the production for the internet and web, and all of the things that go along with that are critical to today. And that major has exploded. I think we have, at this point in its second year, 35 or 36 students. And so great growth.
That's not surprising, really.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a quick remark about our fine arts program, our musical program here at Lincoln College. We've had some great success in that, and I believe firmly that it's growing, going to get even better. And I'd like to invite the community to be aware of these concerts that we have at Lincoln College throughout the school year.
Well, many of the community use the facilities, and that's why this campaign is so critical. Being able to have the finest of facilities, the acceptable, beyond acceptable places for students to learn and the community to use. The Johnston Center for Performing Arts is one of the major tenets of this campaign, and being able to do some renovations to the original seating, and John has developed the original goals for the campaign. And John, why don't you touch on some of the finer pieces within the campaign?
Be happy to. Well, as we started the campaign, I as mentioned a little bit earlier, we looked at first kind of some buildings that needed help, but we also looked at the Lincoln Fund. And I never want to sell short. Buildings are nice, and we need to do a good job of maintaining and keeping them usable. But the annual fund, we call it the Lincoln Fund, is a target. We're trying to raise the Lincoln Fund from $200,000 annually a couple years ago to our goal this year of $800,000. That's a big goal, and that's, again, an annual fund that we wanted to be able to repeat. And you may say, well, why is that so critical in a campaign? It's because it touches everything. It touches scholarships, it's student services, it's athletics, academics. Everything on campus probably has touched some way each year by that annual fund. And so we're asking in the campaign people to consider the annual fund and any other project that they find interesting. And then we're also asking them to think about Lincoln College in their estate planning. And you may think, well, does Lincoln College ever get anything in estate plans? And I just quickly, you know, in recent years, we had $500,000 from the Bertoni estate. And Bill likes to rib me on that. No one on air needs to know why. But Bernie Behrens left a very large amount in his estate for scholarships. And Dan Bach left a substantial gift to the college in his estate. So my point is that Judy Morley, who's currently on our board of trustees, is leaving her entire estate to Lincoln College. Now we're hoping that's about 20 to 30 years down the road. Judy's still a fairly young woman, and I'm not allowed to say how young, but let's just leave it at fairly young.
Let me say this: it's very young.
Yes,
by my standards.
But my point is, you know, so there's really three parts: the Lincoln Fund, which we need to grow annually and get to a point where it can impact all those things it does impact. Then we've got the buildings that we talked about, the Johnson Center, the natatorium, the museum, which is working very hard to become self-sustaining and pretty close to it. We've got the Dennis Campbell Environmental Center, Creekside, which is great for our students and our new degree that we've added. So each of those has a target, Bill. And somebody's going to be interested in one thing and not another, we're thinking. But what we're going to do here in Logan County, which your listeners probably be most interested in, is we're going to have we just had a kickoff event at the college that you attended, and it was, I think, very successful. We raised about $75,000 just that evening. And then
by 3 individuals.
Well, that's okay. And
one of which is with us.
You know, we're also, I lost track of what I was saying there, but
kickoff event.
Then we're going to have a local county. Susan Hoblet and her team are going to have an event here in the county, and we're also going to be talking to some individuals. But during that quiet phase, a lot of key things happened in Logan County. The Woods Foundation, which has been wonderful to a lot of organizations and extremely helpful to the college. You know, we probably wouldn't have the quality museum we have if it weren't for the Woods Foundation. And they've recently pledged and started the payments for $500,000 when we renovated the apartments, which we're calling the Links Village. If it weren't for them, I'm not sure we could have gotten that ready for school. Yeah. We, you know, there's about 40 students staying there. They're extremely nicely done, and we are so appreciative of that. So there's been things happening. We're going to be talking to others. We're going to approach some individuals that may or may not be at some of our events to see if there's something that they find attractive and that they would like to support. But, you know, in the end, when we get finished with this campaign and our $8 million goal, started at 6, decided that wasn't enough. Maybe we did too well early. But no, we actually do need all the money. But in the end, it's going to benefit the students, certainly. It's going to benefit the community because of the cultural things we do there that the community comes and enjoys. And it's certainly going to affect the college itself and its ability to attract students in the future. And that's a competitive game these days. You know, you have to have nice equipment, good dorms, a good program for athletics and fine arts and other things that students find attractive, and so we have to continually raise money because Lincoln College really is dependent on tuition and fundraising. You know, that's the two ways we grow the college and keep it in good, I guess, shape.
You know, excuse me, Doctor.
I wanted to chime in and just say, of the successes that have happened that tie into what John was saying, in 2015-16, we successfully raised $328,000 in unrestricted Lincoln Fund support. Last year, we successfully raised $525,000 in unrestricted support, and we're off to a super start this year and well on our way to the $800,000 goal.
8 million. 8 million.
8 million goal.
Oh, 800,000
unrestricted.
Right,
and
sorry.
So the general support that goes to help students, to advance what we're doing, to help bring these baccalaureate degrees, which will help grow the economic impact. You know, as we grow, so will Lincoln, the city, grow. We will bring those dollars, and they will support purchases in the community and faculty buying houses and purchases at the grocery store and down at the movie theater. And so a whole broad range of support comes back to the community as they donate to support the college. And so very appreciative of that and the history of those who have given.
I'd like to refer to what I call ground level economics, if you will, please. We have a wonderful staff at Lincoln College, and I'm not talking about the administration alone. We have, coming out of the administrative office, out of Dr. Gerlach's offices, it just trickled down and permeates through our entire staff. Some wonderful instructors, and I make it a point when I'm on campus, have been for a number of years now, of talking to the youngsters, our students, and I always ask them a question about our instructors, and some names keep coming up all the time, and not surprisingly some of the same names, but we do have a great teaching staff there. We have a great plant services staff, those who make the buildings and everything look so nice. We have a great dietary staff, those folks who are our students. No student in Illinois eats any better than they do at our cafeterias, and that's all of our folks down there. Those folks who go in there and take care of the gymnasium. We just have a great staff, and there's an economic need. Those folks haven't had a decent raise in a long time. In some cases, they've had reductions and taken them. If for no other reason, for somebody to be induced to give a little extra money or a lot of extra money, as the case may be, it would be to the direct
support of the staff.
Support is the word I was running for. Thank you very much. I knew that's what a PhD will do for you.
There, you see.
But that's a very economic, a very, very basic need in our school. Without them, we don't operate.
Well,
so there's a good reason, folks.
We need to grow against a climate. We will grow naturally just by having students stay for 4 years. And so as we grow, the college will be strengthened by having additional students. And, you know, the purchase of the Links Village Apartments, not only did that beautify the neighborhood, if I could be so bold as to say that, but it added a wonderful option for our students to have more apartment style living right there on the edge of campus. And so the community will continue to notice that growth as we continue to add the bachelor degrees, and students will be doing internships in the community. They will be doing community service projects, and so it's an exciting time. When students stay 4 years, they're that much more mature in that junior and senior year to be able to have that type of connectivity into the community. So I'm excited about our future, and your listeners should also be.
I would like to ask you, please, to address, we've been talking about fundraising, and we've been talking about one thing and the next. One program that you have over there that is just a barn burner to my mind is the museum. and that new building with that statue out in front that I just absolutely love. That museum is something to behold. It's a whole different spin on museums as far as I know, and has been supported by the community, and now you're going to be having a fundraiser for that particular program coming up here very shortly.
I think the husband of a lead agent in that fundraiser should take this question.
Well, thank you so much.
And by the way, to back you up, we will have Tom McLaughlin on next week.
Great.
To further expand this.
Well, he'll do a great job. But thank you, Judy, for giving us a chance to plug the Grand Soiree, which has been going on for about 40 years in Lincoln. It's the only real formal event in town, and 100% of what's raised at the Grand Soiree, which last year was in the high $50,000 after all expenses, goes to the museum to maintain it and to, as I said earlier, it's working hard to become self-sustaining, and that the Grand Soiree is a key part. But the Grand Soiree is something that everyone in the community is welcome to attend. We had about 300, not quite 300 there last year, and there's a live auction and a silent auction. There's a very, very nice meal that our dining hall staff puts on that I think people would.
I'd like to add another very to that.
Very nice. Yeah, and then there's afterwards we have time for dancing, and there are some adult beverages available as part of the ticket. It's sort of an all-inclusive ticket, I guess you would call it, but it's really critical for our museum to stay at the level it is, which, by the way, it's ranked as one of the 10 best college and university museums in the world by USA Today, and I think that's something that we should really always be proud of. So that's coming up. The chair, two chairs of the committee this year, Christine Short and Penny Fricky, have done a great job. The committee as a whole has worked very hard, and in the last few years I think have really improved the quality of the decorations and the feel of that particularly beautiful evening. Some of the women wear evening gowns or cocktail dresses. Many of the men wear tuxedos or their best suit. And and it's a time it's kind of fun to dress up and see people in Lincoln not in their sweatsuit like I am this morning. So I hope it's on the 30th, by the way, of September, and we're taking, Tom will talk about it I'm sure, but we're taking reservations as of now. Tickets are $95 per person, and there are sponsorships. I think we're close to 30 tables have been sponsored. Wow. And several major sponsors also that Dr. Gerlach and Tom have been able to secure for the event. So we're hoping to have another great event for this in the soiree in support of the museum.
I think there'll be over 300, maybe even over 320.
This may be your last chance to see the old fellow in a tuxedo. I'm having trouble doing all the studs and so forth, so well, I might not be able to get a tuxedo
Mr. Gossett,
anymore.
if you need help, I'll send Lisa over to assist. We need to have you there in your tux.
648-5510. You know, we've been so engrossed in talking about the subject matter that we forgot to invite both listeners to call in.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions these last 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, 648-5510. We're doing a whale of a job there on Keokuk, 300 Keokuk Street. Institution been there all these years since 1865. And we're seriously needing some serious financing to keep things going.
Bill, if I may, I want to be sure before we finish to give a shout out to our current and former Board of Trustees and how they've played a critical role in this whole campaign. When we started talking about having a capital campaign tied to the 150th year anniversary, the board brought two, resolutions forward. One was that they unanimously supported the idea that we needed a capital campaign, but more importantly, they also had a unanimous vote that everyone on the board, 100%, would participate in the campaign, in addition to what they were already doing for the college, which was significant. And so, they pledged 20% of the goal, and it's just been a great support system from, some of them are local, many of them are local people that are on our board of trustees, but some are from other parts of the country and other parts of the state, and everybody's playing, and nobody's avoiding participating, but doing it almost with grateful hearts, and that's reassuring.
That's a neat story. Just a real quick aside, honorary trustee, former Senator Larry Bomke, each year comes up with a very, very nice gift for their auctions.
Yep.
And this year he's come up with another great one, and has been in attendance until the last couple of years. So it's nice to have that outside support. By the way, I just want to make a quick comment. You know, a lot of people wait for somebody to leave this earth, and then they make a memorial to them. A nice idea is that if you know of somebody that you particularly respect or like, you can just go ahead and make a contribution in their name while they're still with us.
Yeah, and we have some great naming opportunities. I don't know, could you talk about
I want
those?
to tell you, that's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
And so it's something that somebody might want to consider.
Absolutely.
As another way of giving to Lincoln College.
Absolutely.
It's really a special time to have a permanent remembrance of individuals. I know, Bill, out at Creekside, the Dennis Campbell Creekside, you have a nice naming out there, and
I want to tell you, I feel good about that too.
I bet you do. It's quite an honor, and to know that you're leaving a legacy of encouragement to others is critical. So whether it's in University Hall or the Lincoln Center or in the Johnston Center for Performing Arts, we have ways that individuals can leave a legacy. It could be a brick out in front of the Lincoln Center. It could be a building naming, and so it is an exciting time. I had a connection in my past. He came in one day off the street, unbeknownst to the college I worked at, and said, "You know, I want to give while my hands are still warm."
There's an expression.
And he so thoroughly enjoyed the fact that he was able to give and see the results of his gift. And so, although we appreciate estate gifts, sometimes give while your hands are warm.
Well, I think, just real quickly, of the former student who's happily done well and got to thinking about how Lincoln College has so impacted his life that he dropped in and got just another $75,000 a couple of years ago, which is a remarkable thing. But those are just stories that happen all the time, which shows the impact that Lincoln College has on men and women.
This year we had a gentleman come to our dinner associated with the board meeting. Was it February or May?
I think it was May.
Yeah, May. And we hadn't had contact with him for quite some time. He talked about his experience at another college, which wasn't successful. And then he came to Lincoln College and kind of found himself. And he surprised us with a $100,000 check after he told his story. Now, again, I don't want to send the message that if you don't have a large amount of money to give, that you can't help this campaign. Every dollar makes a difference. Every dollar. And you know, I remember my preacher saying once, when it's not equal, it's equal sacrifice. And if everybody would do equal sacrifice, we'd all do well. And that's true, I think, in the church setting, but it's kind of true for the alumni and supporters of Lincoln College as well.
Final question, Judith Kay. Jim's going to give us an extra minute.
Oh, well, I don't waste it. Use it.
Dr. Gerlach, would you like to sum up, sir?
Well, it's an exciting time. We are headed to new frontier. of revisiting our past, and the campaign is embracing our past and empowering our future, and that's what we're doing here in the city of Lincoln and the county of Logan and the state of Illinois, and we just hope people will come alongside and help us in any way as they have done for 152 years.
Dr. David Gerlach and John Blackburn representing Lincoln College. We appreciate very much your taking your valuable time this morning. I think Dave's is a little more valuable than yours now.
A lot
John.
more.
I don't know about that.
A quick aside, we have a great basketball coach and some nice young men, and we don't have the attendance out there that we all like to see, so find out about when we're playing out there and come out there to watch us at the Jack Nutt Arena.
LincolnCollege.edu. You'll find that information.
I'm going to close with a quote that I found that Dr. Nelson Mandela said at some point in time, and it's about as basic as it gets, folks. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Thank you, John and David.
Thank you.